Welcome, everybody, to the Follow Brand Podcast. This is Grant McGaw, your host for today's show. And I am loving the Midwest right now. I'm telling you, October 1st where I am right now, if you're listening to me. And I'm loving the Midwest feel. I have been in South Florida 30, 35 years. I'm used to it being about maybe 50, 60 degrees. I'm telling you, it is a beautiful 75, maybe close to 80 degrees here. I am loving some Omaha, Nebraska. I'm also loving some Earl Johnson. You got to know this guy. I've been in Omaha maybe 6 months. This guy's name keeps coming into my presence every other day. First it was every week. Now it's every other day. I go to one of my cousins' retirement parties. There's Earl. I talked to one of my aunt, and she said, "Do you know Earl?" Like, yeah, I do know Earl. Then I go talk to my other uncle. He's like, "Do you know Earl?" I'm like, yes. I know Earl. I think all of us need to know Earl because Earl Johnson is the man with the plan. We're going to be talking about finance, financial empowerment, financial literacy, wealth management, the things that make the world spin. And I want him to introduce himself. Let's have a candid conversation. So, Earl, what you got shaking?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. I was very excited about an opportunity to get out here and, speak to you and I guess have that exchange of what you do and be able to get out to the public. That's probably one of the reasons why you see my name so much. Not that I'm the kind of person that goes out and is the loud and, I have a quiet presence, I guess, but at the same time, reputation means everything to me. So, I like to let my community know I'm there to help.
Absolutely. And I'm telling you, what you said is exactly right. You want your reputation, you want other people to be talking about you in your zone of genius, right? And a lot of people were saying, like, Earl, you need to talk to Earl when you talk to about finance, you're talking about wealth management. And always, he's a nice guy. And when I met Earl, I'm telling you, now we're sitting here right now, we're like head to head right here. But I'm gonna tell you, Earl is a good 6'5", 6'6". I mean, he's a towering figure. If you walk into a
Hmm.
room, you cannot know. It's like, who is that guy? But not only do you want to know who he is what he does, and how he helps people to grow. I think when I think about finance, a lot of times you think about finance, there's certain stress that comes along with it because people are like, oh, money, money, money. Yeah, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's in between. It's a constant, I call it friction that kind of occurs in your world. And what you've done for over 25 years, you own your own business, you've been doing this for a long time. Tell us how you truly overcome that type of perception that most people carry when it comes
Yeah.
to wealth management.
Yeah. That feeling is real. And I learned early on that, I don't care if a person has $2,000 or $500,000. Sometimes people are ashamed of the financial decisions that they made in their life and they don't know how they're going to sustain themselves in the future, and it always amazes me because, like I said, you can meet some pretty wealthy people and they're still a little embarrassed sometimes about their decisions or how they manage money and whether or not they're going to be okay. That's the question that people always want to know. Am I going to be okay? Well, my job is to try to help sort through what you're doing and help you understand the consequences if you live your life this way. I'm not the person to tell you, stop watching Netflix, stop going to Starbucks every day. That's not me. We got one life to live. You get to choose, how the consequences will eventually affect you, So if you can set aside a pot of money for life, you set a pot of money away for the future.
Mhm.
Um, you know, that's the thing that people don't understand the separation from, of how am I saving for my future and how it will connect with my lifestyle today. My job is to help give them a better understanding of how that's going to play out. So, it's just amazing how, like I said, you get people who don't, think they don't have any money. You get people who think they have money that, and I tell them, shoot, you keep at this rate, you ain't gonna have what you're hoping to
Right.
have in the
Yeah.
future. So, So it's different for everybody, and you got to have empathy around people's situations because there's a lot of backstory that
Mhm.
got them to the point that they are right now. And what I'm trying to convince people is that all of that matters, but today is a new day.
Mhm.
We're trying to plan for your next 20 years of your life. So don't let the last 20 affect you in a negative way.
Hey, that's a mic drop right there. Just to live for today and not make the mistakes of the past, if that is the case. I think that's so important. Now, before we got together and everybody joined us just now, we were talking about brand, personal brand. You have a personal brand authority. You have built Lexis Wealth Management into a trusted name over 25 years, which is, I think, pretty remarkable. That says a lot. I want to know if you've got any principles or things that have guided you in establishing your brand authority in a very, very competitive industry like financial services.
Yeah, in our business, and especially with a lot of folks that I work with, trust, integrity, and confidentiality means everything. You can't be the kind of advisor where you're in a community where everybody knows you. I mean, you said it, Grant. I'm, 6'5", 6'6". I'm actually 6'9", so don't take my other few inches away from me. So, so I was known in my community, for sports, for playing basketball. So I know an awful lot of people from that. So you had to figure out, okay, how do I translate, this, successful career in basketball and maintain a particular presence with people as a financial advisor. So I may had to have cleaned up my reputation a little bit with a couple of referees, because I probably didn't treat a couple of referees right in my lifetime. But but for the most part, I've always, had empathy for people's situations, because we come from, in some cases, tough circumstances, and every dime matters,
Mhm.
especially if we're trying to create a legacy. And so when I go to work every day, it's about having that kind of empathy and feeling for people's situations and knowing that I don't want them to go back to where they came from. I don't want
Mhm.
you to go back to the days when, you had one meal a day or, you didn't eat the way, you eat steak now, but back in the days it was, beans and weenies, you was happy to have pork chops that night, I don't want you to go that way. I want you to be able to create a trajectory where your families, don't even know the pain that you went through to grow and get them in a position where they can get educated and not worry so much about $100,000 in student loans and things like that. So it has everything to do with really feeling for people's situations and knowing that, give me everything. Give me a good understanding of where you've been and where you like to go. And I'll help devise a financial plan that can meet that criteria.
What you said there, and I took that to heart about getting the plan, meaning let's see your current state, where are you at, and understand the mindset. Like, do you realize that you alluded to that you play basketball? You are on a in a sporting arena, so to speak. When you talk about the world we live in, a capitalistic society, you've got to have money in order to run your life. It's like the
Yeah.
ball, right? You've got to be able to
Yeah.
manage the ball, clock management, all of those
Hmm.
things in order to play a full 4 quarters. And yeah, you might have had a tough half. Everybody's had that tough half, but we also seen other teams or players have a fantastic second half or a fantastic
Right.
fourth quarter, or they win the game. But you've got to have the will, you've got to have an understanding. And on that sideline, as I just alluded to, you have to have a coach and someone who says, "I see where you're at. I see your talents. I see what you can utilize. I see what you're not utilizing, and I see where you can go." I know going to school. One thing and I've talked about this in the past in some of my shows is that I wish I understood, and maybe I wish my teachers would really drilled into me that You are on a game of Monopoly. This is a Monopoly board. All I'm going to do is be able to help you to pass go and collect $200. You have enough skill set to get around the board, collect
Right.
$200. But guess what? That's not the game. The
Mm,
game is to collect assets. The game is to then get property, then to get houses, and then to get businesses in order to run and win the game in Monopoly. And if you don't, as we know, when you first start out on that board, you can pay the rent. You can run everybody at the same time.
yeah. Yeah.
That land off to pay. The rent's fine. But when they
Yeah.
start building up, that
Hmm.
rate gets higher. And if you're only pass and go, you will not have enough
Hmm.
to sustain yourself, right? So my
Hmm.
question to you, when you
Hmm.
understand the game, and you have to get across that mindset to your
Hmm.
clients. And we all know that markets, they rise, they fall.
Yeah.
Client emotions can run high in those situations. How have you trained yourself and your advisors to practice resilience, especially during
Yeah.
turbulent times, and help people to
Yeah.
focus on the game that they're
Mhm.
in?
Yeah, that's a good one. You got to be good at understanding people, and understanding, I guess, people's behaviors, yeah, and why they're investing anyway. You know, then of course you got to be educated about the markets and the whole process. A lot of times you meet people who are in it, or they think that investing is, throw some money in, you get a crypto investment, you make $10,000 turns into a million, in a year. No, it don't work like that, because I've seen the little old ladies who just been consistent doing the blocking and tackling every day, every week, every year. And they get to the point where they say, well, I don't even pay attention to that. Because history says, over longer periods of time, if you select the right investments, you're going to do okay,
Mm-hmm.
because we have a track record of, and then the other thing, people have a hard time correlating the markets to what the market is made up of. The market is made up of, some of the best companies in the world. So if I'm taking my kids to McDonald's, or if I'm shopping at Walmart, you know, or if I'm, sending a package through FedEx, McDonald's, and Walmart are going to make money. There's nothing wrong with becoming a shareholder in those particular companies. As long as you are a supporter, why not benefit? So handling the emotions, in other words, I try to, I guess for the lack of a better term, dumb it down a little bit to, to put it in layman's terms and say, listen, if you bought Walmart share, you're a shareholder. I mean, during COVID, was one of the few places we could actually go and spend money.
True.
So why not invest in them? you know. So, but people choose investments for a lot of different reasons, and that's okay, whether it's Walmart or for somebody else. But at the end of the day, your money can grow when you invest in companies and watch those companies continue. As long as we continue to participate and put our dollars in, as long as they're managing that business appropriately, you're going to be okay. So, but yes, if you do have a portfolio you don't understand, you have investments you don't understand, yeah, sometimes it could be a little nerve-wracking, so you need somebody like myself to go through that portfolio and say, hey, there's some things we need to change, there's some things we need to add, or you're going to have to make it through different periods of time. And that's where, one layer is stock, the next layer is the economy.
Mm-hmm.
We have policy things that go on in the economy. There's things that change with regard to healthcare, governmental policies in certain areas, they will affect investment. So people got to be aware of what they invest in, and, have somebody that can kind of coach them through some of the situations that I just described. And the coaching is a big deal. A lot of people can, go running on their own, but when they get to the end of the race, I thought I ran a 10-6. No, you was on like 11-5. You didn't do as good as you thought you did. So having a coach that can prepare you and understanding what the goals are and how to hit the goals, that matters.
I think 100% matters. Because it's about tap it into someone else's expertise. This is not your expertise unless you went to school. You've got the different certifications. You're watching these things each and every day. Maybe you can manage things. I mean, you manage over $1 billion in assets when, especially when you had offices in Minneapolis and Chicago. I know there's definitely tough moments, along the way. But if you look at, and I always looked at one of our Omaha natives, Warren Buffett. If you look at his investment portfolio, what he normally invests in, as you stated earlier, is tried and true companies, and he's in it for the long term, not the short term gain. So at the end of that race, there's a considerable net sum that is there, and it's less risky. But you've got to understand where you want to do the crawl, walk, run type approach, and that type of thing, and have your financial advisor to truly understand it. And I think that's when it gets down to, for me, my framework is around being authentic. How authentic can you be? And I know your mission has emphasized, value-based relationships. You love to bring value to those relationships. My question to you is this: how do you ensure authenticity when guiding clients, especially through difficult conversations about money and legacy?
Yeah, yeah, I tell them the truth. I tell them the truth. I don't sell them, this pie in the sky opportunity that may not exist for them. So and I will try to project this thing out. In financial planning, you trying to benchmark this. If it's annually, if it's every 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it is, I can offer some predictions on, where we should be and what kind of changes we need to make. But the authenticity part of it is to be able to spend time with people, to show them that you're interested. This is a whole client-centered approach to us. We don't have any success if our clients don't have success. That's the number that is number one to us. So we want to treat them as if their goal is ours. We want to achieve just as well as you do. So that's the approach that we come to the office with every day. That we're here to help you. We're gonna give you time, to give it all to us, and allow us to, position you for success. So it's not, and this is the good part about the nature and way we do business. We're not commission based advisors. I don't have to go chase somebody to make a living. I don't gotta hit you over the head, get a commission out of you, and never see you again. That's not how this works. We consider our clients family. When a new client comes to us and they walk out of the door, my admin, my assistant's gonna say, "Welcome to the family." It's just that important to us. I want to be the guy that walks past you at the grocery store and I ain't hiding in my head down because I didn't do right by you. That's important to us.
I think all of those things, because here's the conversation I know that's happening now. We have one of the
Mm,
largest populations in the United States that has going into retirement, right?
mm,
I think it's the largest population in the history when it comes down to the age factor. So there's a lot of people that are retiring, they're getting out of the workforce, but also they're looking at either their 401k that was probably managed by someone else. They weren't really looking at that a lot. You might make some adjustments every year to it, but that it wasn't something you focused in on a lot. But now it's in your ball game. You've got it. You don't know what to do with it. Whether, do I take this lump sum of money and cash out? Do I continue what I do? Do I have to like move it to another
yeah,
brokerage, or I don't know what to
yeah.
do now. So you find yourself as
Yeah.
almost a now. Is this something you're dealing with a lot in your?
Oh man, that's the ball game right now. And I'll tell you why I say it's the ball game. Years ago, you know, our parents and parents' had Social Security, and if they were fortunate, they had a pension. They didn't really have any money. Their money was from working. When they stopped working, the check stopped, the pension started, the Social Security started. But when they left the earth, what did they have to transfer? If they did well enough, they gave you a house, you got daddy's car, and you got mama's pots and pans. With the advent of the 401k, Now we got money. So now we're not only transferring, the property and the assets that we accumulated, but we're also going to transfer an IRA that used to house my 401k that had 200,000, 500,000, a million, whatever. And now you're speaking to the next generation and say, son, what are you going to do with this money when I'm not here? So the name of the ball game is education, because now we got assets, not just the house that we got to split up and divide, but now we got money that is either going to be the springboard to our family success, or it's going to be a detriment because we're going to spend this thing like the lotto.
Mm-hmm.
So we got an education to be had over these next several years. They call it the great wealth transfer.
Mm-hmm.
$80 trillion will be moving from the hands of the baby boomer generation to the next generation. So you're talking about over the next 30 years, when, mom and mama's mom and they pass away, um, they're going to hand you a baton. Now, we hope that baton weigh 800 pounds. We don't want that baton to weigh a pound and it ain't going to last long. So we're talking about legacy building now, where even in my conversations as a financial advisor years ago, they're much different than they are today, because these folks over the last 20 years have accumulated money. And now it's okay. We're talking a lot about estate planning. We're talking about legacy planning. These are things that we've always heard. We didn't know what estate was.
Right.
An estate, we thought it was just like a big old property. We thought it was South Fork Ranch.
Right.
No, it's not. It's everything you own. That's your estate. How are you going to protect it? You're going to get a trust. You're going to end up going to probate. What's going to happen? We don't know until you get with somebody that's going to educate you about the process and prepare you. So that baton that you pass is going to have everything in it, and your kids are going to be prepared to run with it. So when that generation comes around, now we paying for education at the best schools, cash. We ain't going into $250,000, $400,000 in student loan debt. We paying cash for little Johnny to get his master's, to get his doctorate, because that's what happens in other cultures.
Right.
We're just finally getting, our piece of the pie, and we now need to figure out, okay, how do we protect this? How do we make it work for us? First and foremost, let's not lose it, because I need it to last the rest of my life. And then let's transfer it. So that's a big deal. I mean, if we don't get this right, we can't, we got to get out of the way of starting over. I mean, if you just look at it from business standpoint, when Mr. Tate run his business and Mr. Tate is done, he ain't got no succession plan. They close the doors and it's over. How many businesses have we seen in our community that are over, but we're competing against business that been around 120 years?
True.
We have to educate ourselves on succession, preparing people to step into the roles that we have cultivated for many years, and let this thing run. So now we're in the business where Lexis Wealth Management has been around for 80 years.
Yeah.
It's been around for, 100 years. There's businesses right here on Dodge Street that I could tell you that's in the same wealth management business. And this guy is like third generation in the seat as the owner, and his dad ran it and his granddad ran it, So this is our opportunity
I hear
to,
what you're saying, Earl, and
yeah,
this is so important too, because when you look at the what the experience have been, especially a lot of people of color like me and yourself, and what has that been? Like I said, it's been a workforce environment, right? Blue collar
mhm,
kind of environment that you worked
mhm,
and you paid your bills, and then, and like you said, you retired, you got a Social Security. I mean, if you were lucky, you got some kind of pension. Savings was like, we saved for that moment in time when you had to use money to save up some kind of emergency. Now the game is changing to where you're, especially there's a lot more middle income people that
yeah,
have more wealth than they have from the previous generation. And
Hmm.
going back to what I said even earlier about the education that we got even from school, if they only taught you to pass go and only taught you to pass 200, to cut $200, that mindset has to shift. You cannot bring a W-2 mindset to a entrepreneurial adventure, a business mindset. It's a different story from when you're working in the business to owning the business. So now we're getting into ownership, owning your wealth, and then knowing these all these different things that happen. And there's so many different things, understanding tax, understanding law, understanding, as you said, estate when people pass away, and then who is responsible for these things. And it changes the game. And if you do not have, and I know this, if you don't have a person like Earl in your corner that you trust and somebody can truly help you with this, to your point, if you have a consumer um, mindset that you just take money and spend it, that is not, now you're going to lose all that opportunity, right? Instead of like, how do I take this money and 10x it? That should be
Yeah.
my understanding, and not just 10x it like overnight. That quick get quick rich attitude, has to change. This is something that builds over time. Help us understand the values that you bring to the table, the values that we need to look at. And I know you have a vision around it in terms of helping people create multi-generational wealth.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's very important to me because, I got kids, I got family, I've seen the challenges for people who don't have enough money to accomplish what they want to. And what I've learned is it doesn't mean that you have to go have a six-figure job to prepare yourself for a lifestyle that gives you an opportunity to support the family that the way you want to and to be able to leave a legacy. And I say that because, I'm a big believer in that whole concept of the millionaire next door. You'd be very surprised at the people you walk past you who have $1 million or more. Now $1 million is just a figure. Who knows if they will ever spend it, how they're going to transfer it, but it's just something that gets people's attention. But that can be had by being disciplined on how you spend money, having some success at investing money and starting early at
Mm-hmm.
investing money, you know. And I mean, I got clients, I had to tell them sometimes, I said, hey, you need to live a little bit. You got more than what you need,
Yeah,
and that's okay. And if living a little bit expands their whole mindset around, well, maybe I need to be a bigger, be more charitable. I need to be a better giver, because at the end of the day, we want you to feel good. We want you to enjoy the life that you're given and be able to help other people. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and just give all your money away, but I'm saying that expand your mind a little bit and figure out, if you're not working anymore or change jobs, go work for a nonprofit, do something to help support some other people. All that's important to me because I can't take it all with me. I can't, in other words, there's more value to me being a human being on this earth than just being able to help people with their financial strategies. So, but like I said, you don't have to be the business owner mindset is wonderful. Obviously, it's not for everybody. I talk about my mom a lot because my mother was somebody who worked for Mutual of Omaha for 30 years and she retired. But I knew when my mother went to work, I knew when she went to lunch, I knew when she came back from lunch, and I knew when she was leaving. And that probably helped me say, I'm not doing that when I get out of college. I got to go do something else because I can't, I'm just not that regimented to do it. But God love her because we need people like that, you
sure.
know. But at the same time, somebody like her can become wealthy if they take care of some very small concepts. One, don't live on 100% of what you make. Get to a point where you can learn to live on 90, live on 80, live on 70. And if you're a big wage earner, you shouldn't have to live on more than 50% of what you make. So what are you gonna do with the other 50?
Yeah.
you know. But it's things like that that get people's attention when they start to put the X's. Now, I mean, most people don't budget. They talk about budget, but they don't really know where their money is going. So that's one thing I try to get people to do. Go through what you spend with a fine-tooth comb and then ask yourself, is that necessary?
Hmm.
And, say, well, yeah, okay, maybe it's not. Let them decide. If it is, it's fine. But in most cases, people will look at how they spend money and want to get a better grip or a little bit better handle on it. If it helps them, one, alleviate emergencies, two, create opportunities. Because you might want to stop working and, hey, I want to be a writer. I want to go write books, or I want to go open up a bakery. Um, so
What you said there, Earl, I think is what I find is most important, especially in the work that I do, that a person has to have a North Star, a
mm,
goal, that one goal, something that they get up in the morning, or they're up at night thinking about. This is something they want to accomplish. And they
mhm.
know now you've gotten a blueprint and a plan that you're going to execute and you're going to get there. So if you know if you're going to go, you know what, I want to go to Europe. I'm going to go to Europe. I'm going to spend 2 weeks in Europe. I know it costs X amount of dollars. Now you say, okay, in order for me to do that, I've got to do X to get to Y. So you said I got to discipline myself. I've got a certain much amount. You can either manage the money you have, or you try to grow the money exponentially so you have more money in order to meet your goals. However, it comes out, you still need to have a goal, whatever that goal is going to be, and then execute toward achieving that realistically. Like you said, you got to talk to people. Like you told me that you
Mhm.
wanted to go to France. That's what you told me. In 5 years, I want to go to France. But what you're doing and how you're spending your money, you're not going to be able to go to Council Bluffs. So we got to look at this.
That's
So
right.
people,
That's right.
they talk about strategy, you talk about
Mhm.
execution, but this
Mhm.
is where I think success either will live or success will evil or will die. Is the
Right.
habits and the systems that we've developed. And if we
Mhm.
understand ourselves and take a really good
Mhm.
look, say, you know what? I have a consumer mindset. I like to consume and spend. And if we really listen to a lot of the messaging that's out there in the ethers, whether it's on, advertisements, social media, other things, it's really about spending. It's not about saving. How do you take this
Right.
and create? I want to be an
Yeah.
owner of my life, not
Yeah.
renting your life, right? I
Yeah.
need to own my life. So here's my question. If you had to give one piece of actionable advice
Mhm.
to either they can be professionals, students, educators, entrepreneurs trying to secure their financial future right now, what would that be?
Well, I think that's a tough question because it's everything that helped me came from mentors, you know, being able to listen to somebody that can feed you the right information. And we're at a point where we need to be more comfortable talking about money, and making financial decisions. In our culture, is something that we didn't do a whole heck of a lot of, and we haven't. And it's okay. I mean, even from mom to child, the
Yeah.
conversation isn't even happening. So let alone other outside generations or other family members. But we got to get more comfortable, and I thought, part of your question was going to this place of how I help people do it. And it all takes me back to the beginning, and it's trust.
Yeah.
Because if they understand, I care about you before don't even show me how much money you got.
Hmm.
Tell me why you're here and what it is that you want to accomplish. And
Exactly.
why does all of this matter to you? Then we'll be able to figure out if we can establish a relationship,
Hmm.
because I'm going to offer some strategies that might shake you a little bit because things are a little bit different for you, but that's what success is all about. Success, sometimes you got to be uncomfortable at one point in your life. So in the beginning you might have to be a little uncomfortable to be comfortable later. A lot of people play it close to the vest and want to be comfortable right now but find out they're insecure in the future.
Mm.
You know, we're not trying to put people in that position, but I'm at least be able to have a real in-depth conversation with you about where you need to go and what needs to happen. You know, so if you're willing to trust me enough to give you the advice that and it's the funny thing about relationships like this because you know you don't know if they see you as an advisor or a used car salesman sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, true,
I ain't
true.
trying to sell you nothing, but they meet a lot of people who have that mentality. People think sometimes business is all about, you know, bell bottom pants and white shoes, you know, walking around a lot trying to sell you a car that he got. No, this is what I want to buy.
Yeah.
I don't want to, you know, I don't want to buy that. Learn about me first,
Hmm.
you know. So there's things that I learned a lot coming into this career, you know, that helped me be successful that I take into business every day. And it starts from being trusted, being able to build better relationships with people. And then once they see that you're all about their success, um, then they start talking a little bit more about what they want to accomplish, and you can start figuring out how you can help them do it. So, you know, being able to grasp their attention, have a good conversation with them, is everything.
I think what you said is so important. You've got to get the information from a
Yeah,
trusted source
yeah,
and understand how then to apply that knowledge. Applied knowledge is so big right now. The financial world is changing. Everybody knows about the technology world changing with
mm,
artificial intelligence, but the fintech world, the financial world is changing rapidly in
got
so
it.
many different ways. And so your traditional banking world is changing a lot of things. So if you're not on top of these things,
Mhm.
and again, if you're not a technologist, you wouldn't go to someone like, "Hey, build me a data system," and and you try to do it yourself. You're not going to be successful. I believe that you need to talk to a financial expert on these things. There's so many tools that are out there now. People are familiar with Robinhood, but just like any other platform, if you don't know how to drive the car, you're going to wreck it. So,
Right.
so, so
I've seen a lot
talk
of
to
beat up
people that you
cars
know,
too.
right?
Yeah, I said I've seen a lot of beat up cars too. So,
Yeah. Or like I said, though, you didn't, and no one can anticipate, like,
mhm,
obviously we had the COVID and then, wow,
mhm.
that changed the whole financial markets.
Yeah,
You had, like you
yeah,
said, it changed the political system changes. Like, wow, it changes a lot of different things. Different wars break out, or there's other
mhm,
things that affect your portfolio. But if you really watch it over time, which I've watched,
mhm,
is that
mhm.
it comes back. People get resilient and the corporations get resilient. This is what buoys the economy. Governments are really the benefactors of good people like ourselves that go to work every day. Taxes only occur when you make money and then they get a percentage of it. It's us that does these types of things. But knowing how to work smarter, I think, is very important.
Yeah,
Understanding money management, like right now, and I still need to learn it even today, understanding how to apply principles around finance, around money, and how to make it grow successfully over time is something I definitely haven't mastered, but I would talk to someone like yourself and we would have candid conversations about these things. I think it's so
right.
important. So before I let you go, I
Mhm,
want to ask you this because I've been asking this for a lot of my people that come on the show. How did you
right.
feel? First time you've been on the Follow Brand podcast. First, you got wherever you probably listened to a couple of shows. Now you've gone through the
Mhm.
whole experience. How'd you like your interview?
I love it. I love it. It's very engaging. You know, it's good when you're talking to somebody who has, you know, an understanding of what it is that you do, and it's being and able to direct, I guess, the questioning to get out what I want to get out. I mean, this message is, I mean, for us, and is paramount. We better get a grasp on understanding money. We got to have resources.
Mhm.
I mean, it's nice to have a voice, you know, it's nice to have a vote, but you know, resources are a big driver in our success. And if we learn more about managing in those resources, you know, our situation will be much better at light speed, you know. So I appreciate you for being able to extract what it is that you want to hear and what I'm able to provide to people. I didn't have to talk about the stock market or, what percent did this, that, and the other. I mean, there's just so many more important things, but
Sure.
those are certainly the components in which, I help people. And it doesn't show on day one. But you ask my clients that have been with me 5, 10, 15 years. Some of them, they see some changes right away, but ask the people I work with that have been around a long time, you know, they'll
Well,
tell you
your
how.
name is synonymous with success. Everybody I've talked to, and they talk about Earl Johnson, they're sitting there, they're smiling. So,
That's a
that
good
says
thing.
a lot. That says a lot about
Mhm.
you and your company. Tell us how to contact you.
The easiest way is lexiswealth.com. Our website is pretty robust, has all our information there. So if you go to lexiswealth.com, you'll be able to find us in the About Us section or the Contact Us section. We do a lot of events around the city. Again, our big deal is not only helping, our clients with strategies, but educating people about what we do. So we're going to get out in the community and do a lot of events to help folks.
I like it. And how big is your team?
I have 4 people in my office here, but I also have advisors in Chicago and Atlanta as well too. So the folks in Chicago and Atlanta have been with me they've been with me. Oh, they're both 20 years plus in the business. One of them's been 27 years in the business, and he's the youngest of the group.
Nice.
So I got a brain trust of experience to work with. So don't think that, I'm the only one, putting out the strategies here. I got people that we talk to on a daily basis about, how we're going to help people. But we got, like I said, we have people on the ground in Atlanta and Chicago in addition to my 4 folks here.
I love that. I love that, man. This is so good. We've got to get this right, and we will get this right because it's all about starting where you are right now. How can we move the needle forward? God bless the child that has their own, and I'm telling you, you have shown us the way, and I really appreciate you. I want to encourage your entire audience to check out all the different episodes on Follow Brand 5 Star BDM. That is the number 5. That is star. That's BDM. B for brand, D for development, informatics.com. You'll see a section there on financial empowerment while I feature people just like Earl Johnson, who's talking about how we can move that needle forward. We need to educate yourself. This is free information. There's no reason for you to say, oh, I didn't know. Yes, the information is there. You just have to apply it. So I want to thank you again for being on the show.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Grant.
Bye bye.